Say, how do I forgive when there's no reason at all? Behind these walls I live as the devil he calls. I'm tempted at every side, and I see no way out. My burden, I bear this fight. I know I must free my soul. I become aware that I am the presence in me atone. His face as I step past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, the light takes me home. Steadfast, I know, facing thee, no evil on my path, and unstoppable will be the power that breaks the night, the power that breaks the night. I become aware that I am the presence in me atone. His face as I step past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, the light takes me home. I become aware that I am the presence in me atone. The space as I stare past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, the light takes me home. I said the terror won't find me, the fear can't bind me, no burdens to bear at all. Awaken, I put my cares behind me, my cares behind me. I become aware that I am the presence in me atone. His face as I step past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I become aware of the light, aware of the light, yeah, yeah. I know that it's the light, the source that fills my need. Oh, the light, oh, the light. I become aware of the light, aware of the light. It's a Christ in me, so simple and free.
Greetings. I am heading for about a 40-minute drive here, so once again I figured, well, what the heck, let's pull up the video and see what message wants to come forth. Well, last night I was doing a hike with Michelle, and we brought up a couple interesting topics, and I got off on a couple tangents that she thought I should really make videos and share that content, revisit it for this channel here. So I'll probably go into some of that a little bit, as well as whatever else comes up. first of all, I guess housekeeping notes. I would say the Eye of God retreat, October 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. Website is makefatherproud.com, makefatherproud.com. We are going to be closing that out. So I have to have at least a commitment or the deposit for the commitment by September 1st if you're planning to come. And that's just, you really want to do that for yourself, really, because the bookings, it's Fall Fest in Door County. And Door County is one of the most beautiful places in the world during that time. It's going to be very festive with the colors and all the trees, and all of the scenery will be mind-blowing, as well as the activities that we'll do. I have VIP packages available for individuals or couples. It's buy one, get one, by the way. So if you buy a regular, it's buy one, get one for your ticket. So it's a crazy hot deal for everything that we're lining up for it. But keep in mind that your room, you should probably get immediately, because there will be 50 to 60,000 people, tourists, coming through that area during that particular weekend, as it is one of the biggest celebrations ever. And we're going to celebrate right along with it and do our own thing and create our own special world within that world. It'll be really exciting. I really encourage you to come. If you're on the fence, you can, put a deposit down, set your intention. I don't see any downside to it, other than maybe if you're, really financially strapped, it might not be the best opportunity for you right now. If that's the case, then really, realistically, you should get into the New Man workshop. That's why I did that workshop, to get everybody into that receiving mode. And that's been one of our most successful online workshops. That, and then the spiritual healing practitioner training, that'll be starting in September again. I'll be doing class 2.0. And you get to take that class included if you do the Eye of God retreat. So that's an additional $497 value, which ultimately, if you're going to go deep and you're going to get into the knowledge, that's the way to do it. It really is to set aside the time and really prepare yourself and do daily work and build yourself up and go all in. Why not? What else are you going to do? The world has already played its card. The world is playing its card of, hey, they've done the lockdowns, they've done the recession thing, they're doing the food shortage thing, they're doing all this nonsense, and they're going to keep doing all this nonsense because it's the end of the iron fist rule from out there. It's the end of it. They're not going to go out without a fight. It's a spiritual battle, and it's the breaking free from being enslaved for eons in the middle place of human reasoning. Human reasoning is how they use the sorcery to get you bound. You're a celestial being, and they've spellcast you into a prism of your own mind, if you will. And it wasn't even your mind to begin with. Many great people have cracked various areas of this, and I've studied most all of them, as well as what I'll talk about today. I'll give some supplemental teaching on relationships, and I'll just go into that right now. So what I talked about last night, if you look at the entire 10 commandments, all of these commandments are about one thing. What do you think that one thing is? Just put it in the comment below. Before I tell you the answer, let's just see how much faith you have. What do you think they are? What do you think they're about? Well, I'll tell you what they're about. They're about honor. Honor God and honor others. So simple. But honor is a way of life. Honor brings favor. So when you sow honor as a seed in any environment that you enter, if you make a habit of sowing honor, then you will receive favor. And favor is when somebody likes you. Favor is when someone that has the ability to bless you likes you. That's really the secret shortcut to success. When you honor the Father, the tithe is one way to honor the Father, not just of your money, but your time, your attention, your energy, your focus. That's really honor. You're sowing honor. That brings favor. And that favor is grace. And that grace is the parting of the Red Sea. It's the allowance that you get, which is prayer. Prayer is your allowance that God gives you to become atoned with God's one focus, one mind, one love. And you get to be the recipient of that by tuning yourself into that. It's a live stream. So God's sending a live stream all day, every day, in the perfect day that the Lord hath created, that knows no darkness. And that transmission is always airing live. So imagine most people are in the mortal construct, in mortal fiction, and they're listening to all sorts of static buzz and chaos and nonsense and fear. The fear channel's on all day long. And what you do with prayer is you're really tuning in to the faith stream. And you turn into the divine idea, and you're like, oh, there's that peace I'm looking for. There's that serenity. There's the relaxation. Ah, that feels good. That's God. That's it right there. And then you get knocked out of it. And then you go back into human reasoning. You go back into carnal logic because you want to be responsible. And that's the problem, is that God never engineered you to be responsible like that. You're not responsible for what goes on out there. You're really not. Not even in terms of the well-being of your children. Are they not God's children also? Your job is to control your focus. Your job is to fix what's going on between your ears, if you will, and to allow that to sink into your heart so that you can walk steadfast, not by human sight, but by spiritual sense. So honor is what the whole thing's about. Now, if you really want to teach your children, if you're a father on the earth, if you will, then teach them how to honor. It should be your number one thing that you should be focused on. If you want to narrow down to first principle, what is the best legacy I could ever leave my children? Teach them how to honor. Teach them how to sow honor in every environment that they go into. What is honor? Look up the definition. It has to do with respect. It's to pay close attention to detail. It's to have a high esteem for. Attentive. Now, an example of honor, 2 days ago, I'm gearing up for this new workshop called the Big Idea. And also, by the way, if you join the Big Idea, you also get the new man included free. It's really an extraordinary value for you. And really, it's a no-brainer when you think about it. The link's below. You can just listen to me tell you about it. It's a no-brainer. I spent 2.5 hours on one scripture. And this was a couple days ago. Matthew 17, verse 24 through 27. It's, the whole shenanigan where Peter is required to come up with the tax money, and he has to go to the sea and cast a hook, catch a fish, and the coin comes out of the first fish's mouth, and he uses that to pay the taxes. Well, isn't that a dream come true? Wouldn't everybody just want to do that? Isn't that really like the greatest thing you've ever heard in your life? That you have this sudden demand that's just pressed upon you, like, wow, I got to come up with this, like right now. And Jesus is saying, hey, no problem. Let's just go to the sea and catch a fish and open the mouth. It's right there. Well, I spent 2.5 hours dissecting that, and I'm going to teach that process, the exact replicatable way to use that, in class 1 of the Big Idea. And then I spent another hour breaking it into step by step. Now, in order to do that, I had to honor that scripture by sacrificing all of my other desires that I wanted for that day. It really took up the entirety of an entire day for me. Imagine that. One scripture can take a whole day. And what, am I slow? Well, actually, I went through different variations of different Bibles, different, there's the Sefer, and then there's the King James, and then there's the New International Version. And I really wanted to look at every word and then meditate line by line and allow the story to come alive in my intuitive unconscious mind. And as the story came alive in my intuition, then I began to see between the lines, if you will. I began to hear the voice of God within. And I started taking notes. And I had 4 pages of notes. And then I saw other scripture where it lined up. And then I went to bed on that. And then the next day I woke up and I said, okay, here's how it works. Here's how the game works. Now it's field theory. It's all just field theory at this point. Because we both know that if you need to come up with a sum of money, you're probably not going to go to your nearest fishing store and get a pole and go to the lake and ocean, whatever, and drop your hook in there and catch a bluegill or a bass or a muskie, and you're going to pull it up and say, well, gosh darn it, where's that coin at? The literal translation is really a paradox here, because we literally believe everything Christ tells us. But honor and favor go hand in hand. And so what I'm telling you is that if you give God 5 seconds of your time to look at a scripture, it is not the same as if you give God 5 hours or even 5 days of your complete focus to look at scripture. And when I'm seriously looking at scripture, I will give that 5 hours to 5 days for one little scripture. I've given decades to Malachi 3:10. I've done, probably 6 hours of talks upon it. Some of the things that I talked about you'll never hear ever elsewhere, but these are the result of my introspective meditative reflection upon not only what I read, but what I did with it, what happened, the outcome, and what my heart is adjusted to at the time when I made the recording. And I truly believe that one scripture you can repackage and reopen all of your life, and it will continue to represent itself deeper and deeper and more profound at levels that you haven't even contemplated yet. You're looking at a living word. You're looking at a live stream transmission that is taking place through those pages. And once you can get that doubting Thomas, carnal, reasoning, logical, linear, usufruct brain out of your way, you will be able to tune into the now space venue of receptivity to a divine principle that is forever the only power, presence, mind, and activity, and it will become known to you because you've made the space for it. So, speaking of honor and teaching children honor, you must learn to honor in every environment you go into. And you really don't get to pick and choose honor. You have to honor, or you are by default dishonoring. Honor is something that is, if you were to focus on one thing, if you said, how can I improve my life by just doing one thing? If I just want to specialize in one thing, how can I get the most yield for my investment, the most return on it? I'd say master the art of honoring and sowing honor, and just become a master of sowing honor everywhere you go. Like, look up the etymology of the word, write it down, get real clear of the definition. Here's the thing. If you don't know the definition of a word, if you can't define the word in the appropriate way or context, you can't demonstrate it, because you can only demonstrate according to your knowledge. So if you're ignorant, well, the excuse is that I'm ignorant. But if you know the truth, you can never unknow it again. So the idea is to get the truth, know it, meditate upon it, reflect upon it, and then start living from the truth. And then you'll start to demonstrate the fruit of that demonstration. So that's what my talk about honor was, and I went into many specific details. And honor is the name of the game. Honor is the secret. All 10 commandments are all about honor. All of them. Now, the next thing, as I talked about, is in terms of relating and relationships. Michelle asked me, why is it that I thought that, 85% of marriages fail? Why do 95% of them, are dysfunctional? What's the deal here? I said, well, it's sort of obvious that when you went back to when mankind on the earth used to live just for a few decades and they had to marry to survive, it was either marry and survive or die, starve to death, perish. What was not happening at that time? I'll tell you exactly what was not happening. Well, along comes this guy, years and years later, and this guy was named Marshall McLuhan, and he discovered that there are these 5 bodies. And so since we're celestial beings and we are essentially pure awareness or consciousness, most of our consciousness, if we're body conscious, is identified in a body. Well, prehistoric man, if you will, getting married for living for a few decades, is body conscious. He's in a body. He identifies as his body. So he has one medium of exchange. He has one structure, which is the message, which is what Cloterra Pi evolved Marshall McLuhan's message into. As the medium was the message, was Marshall McLuhan, and Cloterra Pi came along and said the structure is the message. The structure of communication here, in particular, is where I'm going with this. So you have these ancient prehistoric man, if you will, ooga booga, ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, it probably wasn't like that, but we tend to believe everything we hear in our history books and read whatever. But they didn't have the technological advances, so they had their physical body. So the communication structure was kinesthetic, auditory, visual, in one medium. And that medium was the 3D reality of one series timeline circuit, if you will. Here's somebody standing right in front of me. Here's my communication right here. It's very analog, if you will. Well, somewhere along the lines, we have to digitize our brains and go parallel dimensional in our construct, because now, fast forward, we live in a metaverse. And according to Marshall McLuhan's discovery of the 5 bodies, which there are more than that now, you have, right now, you're watching me in the Android meme, probably on your device. You could even be watching the device tied in through the TV, which is also the TV body now. These are different structures. Every message carried through each structure becomes essentially a different message. It is a completely different level of consciousness communicating. Now, I could put this in print and I could give it to you and it'll become the printing press, the Gutenberg printing press. And if I put it in print, well, now you're communicating with me on a whole different level, aren't you? And then there's the text messaging. There's the phone calls. I hear your auditory voice over the electric airwaves. That's the radio. And you're watching me right now, and you're having a relationship with this, and you're hearing this, and it's coming through the ether. It's coming through the internet. Now, what would happen if our relationship was built on this internet meme, right? And we were very harmoniously connected in the internet, if you will, like this. And then we decided to interact in a text platform. Like, we no longer interacted. You can't watch my live streams anymore like this, right? For some reason, you have to go to text only now. Well, I could text you the same message that I'm telling you here. But wouldn't you agree that it absolutely changes our dynamic 100%? I would even surmise and tell you that it's not even the same relationship. Those aren't even the same people. Those aren't even the same levels of consciousness. Well, look at your relationship that you're going through right now that you think is with one person. You're having one relationship with the divine mind. That's all you ever have. That's what the holy, the divine marriage is that you are in the spirit, of the spirit, and relating to the spirit. But that spirit takes its hold upon through our sense perception of our human awareness, what we see, smell, hear, taste, and touch, all of these different structures and all of these different mediums convey a different message. So you could say I'm having 5 relationships with the same person: texting, phone calling, video messaging, touching, caressing, speaking to. Like, well, what happened over time is all of these different structures happened, and now we're actually going into the metaverse, which creates a real interesting dynamic. So the human idea, essentially, the human idea is breaking down. That's what's at the crux of all of the dysfunction within so-called marriages, is that the human idea is breaking down. So the human idea began to merge with cyborgs the minute you started carrying a phone around, the minute you started having a laptop. In fact, the minute you started having a desktop computer, maybe back in the 80s, whatever it was, the human idea began breaking down. It's nothing but a false idea of consciousness. You don't live in a physical body any more than you do in a MacBook or in your iPhone. But yet they are so foundational to your engagement with what you think is the outside world now, that these structures become different messages, different messaging platforms. They become different versions of you. And how someone else, allegedly there's someone else, right? Well, there is no one else, but how you are perceived in each of those messages and structures has to do with a certain way that you relate to those. For example, when I like to learn, and this goes to the structure is the message, I have a group of individuals that I learn from on the telephone. I love to learn from somebody on the telephone. That's how I relate to that medium. I am relating to the telephone in a way where I love to learn. Now, consequently, I also relate in the telephone in a way that I really dislike being affectionate, loving, romantic, any of that on the telephone. I don't like it. So my relating to that medium is very ineffective if I try to bring it into a love capacity of romance, etc. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Now, if I were to build a relationship with somebody romantically in my physical chemical body, if you will, and it was very robust and very delightful, but then we suddenly moved over to the telephone as the medium, that would be ultimately catastrophic for our relationship unless I changed how I relate to the structure itself. Now, this is deep, but this is how the game works. You have to look beyond the surface appearance of things. The structure is the message and the medium is the message. And when you play with these concepts, you start to see a whole different multiverse reality playing out before your lying human eyes. And ultimately, at the end game, it's the destruction of the human model. Human consciousness, if you will, that's an oxymoron, because humans don't have any intelligence, because a human is literally legally classified as a monster. It's a dead fiction, corporeal, corporate entity that they came up with to classify you in law as some form of, sheeple chattel. It's erroneous at best. You are consciousness made manifest. There's only one consciousness. But you've gotten acclimated with several different forms of mediums. Like, you know what a medium is? It's a channel, right? Okay, well, I'm a channel, I'm a medium, right? Okay, well, your phone in your hand is a channeler. It's a medium. And you're resurrecting the dead right now in front of you. You're resurrecting the dead in front of you. You're having a seance. So when you listen to me right now, you're having a seance. Let that play in your mind a little bit till you get your aha moment, because it's going to blow the lid off of your thinking capacity and allow you to see the world in an entirely different way. You're not looking at just one world, you're looking at infinite worlds. So anyway, I'm just going to leave you with that. I'm not going to go off into all that detail, but I've learned how to modify and tweak these things and how to change the relating between these two ideas, because it's all ideas and it's a universe full of ideas. So when you change the way the two ideas relate to each other, you change the outcome. You change the inputs, you change the outcomes. But you have to realize that you're dealing with structures. You're dealing with objects moving in time and space. These are non-localized events in the field, and you have to see it with your abstract metaphysical eye and then carry it into your reasoning after you have broken through the veil of the dream that you think that you're living in a clock time reality with one partner. Like, oh geez, I have one partner and we communicate on the phone and we communicate in the chat box, and I see her on Friday and we go out and we touch hands, and that's actually not what's happening. And that's why the whole thing is breaking down. It's the breakdown of the human idea. All right, well, with that said, I think I've conveyed my message here. I look forward to sharing with everybody more in the coming up workshop in the big idea. Remember, you get the new man included, and also if you come to the Eye of God in Dora County, Wisconsin, deadline is September 1st to have registered for that or to have a deposit down on that. I strongly suggest being there. If you have the urge to be there, you're going to learn a lot more than meets the eye. And if you can't do it, totally understand, no problem. The ones that are coming up online are also buy one, get one as well. So you buy the big man, you get into that one. And by the way, there's no price tag on it. That's between you and God. It's you check your heart, you sow into the faith. As you sow, so shall you reap. And according to the level that you sow is the level that you reap. It's between you and God. I don't get to stand in the middle of that. That's on you. But this is really amazing for you. These are amazing times. These are the biggest breakthroughs that one could ever imagine. You're breaking free from the carnal mind. This hasn't happened in eons. You've been a slave to the carnal mind for lifetimes. Allegedly, you've lived lifetimes, right? The karmic cycle of reincarnating in a carnal reality. See, over and over again, becoming carnal every time. You're stepping out of carnality so you can become your authentic self, the author, the AU, the gold of the gospel is sinking into you. Now is the time to go all in. Now's not the time to ease back and go back to another karmic cycle. Why would you want to do that? When you follow this ministry, you're already knee deep in the ascension process. You're too far ahead to go back. So now is the time to keep your sights looking straight ahead and to go all in and just double down on it. So that's my message for you today.